Lord Enma is the king of the yokai world, and he really isn't that great and competitive. That is until he becomes his Awoken form, in which he gets exponentially more edgy but also more viable. He's literally just a better Lord Enma, and today we'll look at Enma Awoken and see how he does in the competitive scene. Enma Awoken has two forms, and we'll first discuss his basic form. In this form, his stats are pretty insane all around. Amazing everything, but still worse HP than S rank Urchin. His stats mean you can really use him in any way you want. An offensive tank or a physical or magic attacker are your two most likely options. His skill, Awakening, can boost these stats even further. It says it activates after he takes 5 actions, so you could potentially pair this with Yudu to make things go much quicker. You can count it down in just 3 turns, then also get an extra action to make use of it before the next turn. The stat boost is really great, so it's worth waiting for. If you don't mind waiting the extra turns and or don't want to use Yudu it, you can run shielding or stealth soul on him to keep him alive the full 5 turns. Make sure you don't switch him in or out while you wait. It won't count while he's subbed, and when you switch a yokai in, they can't take an action until the next turn, so you'd essentially be wasting your time if you took a turn without doing anything. You could also use Mythical Bangle reliably on him, since his speed is so high already, and his strength is already great. Basic Enma Awoken is kinda hard to build around, especially since he has no drive on his S rank, but it's worth trying and a pretty fun yokai to use. But what happens when he gets the Enma Blade? Blade Enma Awoken is a lot more specialised and harder to use than basic Enma Awoken. Let's start with the positives. He has a very interesting ultimate. Fell Enma Blade is only 240 base power all told, but is one of the only attacks in the game that does physical fire damage. The other uses of physical fire are varied. Wad Option is one of the worst yokai in the game, Brutal is great, and Flamarice is basically just a lesser Brutal with the same ultimate. Blade Enma Awoken also happens to have the second highest strength stat in the game, beaten only by Animan Studios' Enma. He can't surpass Big Daddy Enma however, as if he stands in the front row he gets a 20% strength boost thanks to his skill. This all seems great, and you'd imagine Blade Enma Awoken be very excellent and commonly used, right? Well, the second bit is right. You see him on a lot of low rankers teams online. However, the problems come in when you see his bulk. His HP is unchanged, and it's about the same as Urchin's at B rank. Meanwhile, his defense shoots down. Really down. This means he can't really take attacks that well, and since you need to use him in the front row to make most of his skill, this really does suck. If he could use a stealth soul, he'll be stupid, broken and overpowered, so I guess this is a good way to balance it. His speed is still excellent, and his strength is still the second best in the game, so you could just hide him behind a tank and he'll still do great damage. It's worth using sometimes, but not as much as people give him credit for. Having no tribe is a big issue, as tribe unities are very powerful and every team should have at least one. It's the reason why yokai like Sir Nyanzalot are even viable, even though there are better options. Being able to fill a similar purpose to another yokai while being in a different tribe is very valuable, as it essentially means you can use the same yokai in more teams than you could normally. Being forced to have him behind your tank kinda sucks as well, since being in the front row is a small but important boost to damage for physical attackers, and you can't really do that while they hide behind a tank, so another option would be give them Stealth Soul and have them next to your tank, which you also can't do with Blade Enma since he's already holding the item. You can see an example of this in my MSG team video I posted a while back, where I had a Stealth Soul Gleam and a Shadow Venoct on the front row, alongside a Mochismo who would take all the hits since they were redirected towards him. Enma Awoken without the blade is gimmicky but fun, and Enma Awoken with the blade is an interesting attacker with some pretty bad qualities. What do you think of Enma Awoken? Let me know in the comments and have a good day.